This is Diane Mourglia-Swerdlow for expansions.com. I'm happy to have you join me again today. Here we have winter in Michigan, which I've been telling you about. And so the last couple days or times that I did my podcast for you, I showed you some sweet things because this is the holiday season. But in between that, you also want some easy things because it may be cold where you live, or maybe you have holiday parties to go to, and you would like something that's relatively easy to take with you or to make a lot of and stick in your freezer. So what I'm going to demonstrate to you is my basic chili meat recipe, which also can be expanded into other things which I'll tell you about. So if you want to come over here with me, I already have some things cooking. So let's take a look in my pot. So over here in my pot, I've already started cooking the meat because I didn't want you to have to sit around and watch everything cook. But I didn't thoroughly cook it yet because I have a little secret that I want to tell you. When I put my meat in the pot to cook it like this, I also add just a little bit of water. And water in the bottom helps the meat to steam a little bit. It cooks it a little faster and it allows it to become a little bit more crumbly. When I'm done cooking, I will dump the meat juices out because a lot of it is where your fat goes and other things. Now, my secret ingredient, one of my secret ingredients, which I'm going to share with you today, is when I make my chili, I also add in sausage. So I've got some here that's still in the package so you can see this. I happen to get from a local person. But this is hot Italian sausage. It's pork. I also add in 1 pound of sweet, and then I put in 3 pounds of ground buffalo. Now that's my recipe. That's 5 pounds of meat. It makes a large amount. You can cut that down and you can do the proportions that work for you. And again, don't think that you have to get what I get, but you can adjust. You can use ground turkey, ground chicken. You can get the sausages that you have available in your local supermarket. And as far as meat, if 5 pounds is too much for what you want, as I said, you can use it for holiday parties. You can put it in the freezer so it's easily available to you, or you can give it as gifts. There's lots of interesting things that you can do once you've got the basics done. Now what I'm going to do today is I am going to make chili, but the way that you season it can determine what you actually do with it, because I also use this same basic recipe for lasagna and also for nachos. So it depends on your seasoning, and that's what I want to tell you. So even though this is a basic meat mix, you can use it for a wide variety of things. So I'll let this cook for a second, and then I'm going to show you what else that I add in, which may surprise you, but it's very good, very healthy. It's a meat extender, a way to get some good veggies in yourself. It also lightens what you're doing, because meat itself can be very heavy and it can feel very heavy, and so sometimes you want to eat that, but you want to do things to make it more palatable and easier on your system. I want you to notice I have 2 pans. These are relatively large pans, and if you don't have pans this big, that's okay. Again, adjust to what you have in your household. What I do next is I use my vegetables. I take, for the amount of meat that I'm using, I have 2 medium-sized onions that I'm going to run through my shredder. So I have to make sure that they fit. And when you put them through your shredder, they don't have lots of little, I don't know, people don't, sometimes they think onions are slimy when they're cooked. Especially children, if you have children that you're feeding. So this kind of disguises it. Most people won't know it. These are turnips that I've already taken the ends off of. You want to use some root vegetables that don't have a lot of flavor, because this will then extend your meat, make it a little lighter, and also get good veggies in you, and it will pick up the flavor of your spices. So it's an interesting addition. I actually have 6 kind of medium to small turnips that I'm adding in with the amount of meat that I'm using. You can adjust that to either what you have on hand, or you can add more or less depending upon what you like. You can also use rutabagas. Zucchinis are excellent to throw in there as well as a flavoring, or it's not as a flavoring, but it's something that will hold your flavor for you, that won't add a lot of flavor, but yet it will give it body. Now, I'm going to shred these, and then I cook them separately to make them soft. The other thing that I'm going to be showing you in just A second is cauliflower. Now again, I've talked to you about the natural color of vegetables, so I'm going to show you my soaking tub over here. I actually have a big head of purple soaking. Isn't that beautiful? It's kind of a little wilted, but it's really nice. This is what I got from Cindy. Remember, the original vegetables were purple. Now, I am going to use this one, however, which is a yellow-orange one. This I'm going to actually put in my recipe, but I've done both. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect the flavor, but it does affect the nutrition. And then my garlic, and I've told you before that I soak the garlic in the soaking tub, and when you do that, it peels really easily. And that's one of the things about using fresh garlic that a lot of people don't want to deal with because you're in a hurry, such as myself. But it comes out really nicely, very easily once it's been soaked. It was kind of amazing to me when I accidentally left my garlic in too long one day and pulled it out, and I go, wow, this peels so much easier now. So it was one of those little accident, quote-unquote, coincidences that made my life easier. So I'm going to peel these in just a second and add those into my mix. And then I'm going to run them through my shredder. From there it goes into my the largest pot that you saw there with a little bit of olive oil. You want to do that first, otherwise it may not cook all the way through. Or if you're simmering your sauces for a long time, if you've got the luxury of time, you might allow your sauce to simmer and just put it right in there. Another thing that will happen, so I will forewarn you, when you use these kind of vegetables and you're cooking, is there is a lot of the water that will come out of it, and it can tend to make your, this has got a little mold in it, it can have a tendency to make your stock watery, and most people want a little thicker product. So, here come the turnips first. And it just takes a few minutes, very fast, with a Cuisinart or another process. Put my onions and garlic. It kind of mixes it up there in the pot. Processor's full. Alright, there's I already put a little olive oil in there, and I put the turnips, the onions. I just have to finish up the cauliflower, and that can be simmering. You can see why I make a lot at one time, because it takes a little bit of time, a little bit of prep work, but once it's done, then you're going to have quite a few meals. So think about it when you get started, what your time frame is and what your goals are. Okay, next is the cauliflower. This is really beautiful. It looks like cheese, but it's not. Alright, now you've got kind of your basic mix going on here. The other thing that you can use, I was thinking as I was working here, that I didn't mention to you as an add-in vegetable, is cabbage. You can also shred cabbage and put it in here. Kohlrabi will work. If you're not too concerned about carbs, of course, you could do a little bit of potato, although that sometimes can give you a starchy flavor to your dish. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to season it for chili, but I'm also going to tell you how to do a couple other things. If you want to do nacho meat, do the same thing, but leave out all the tomatoes. If you want to make lasagna, I make a noodleless lasagna. I make mine exactly like this, and I do put tomato sauce in, and I season it with Italian seasonings versus what the seasonings I'm going to show you are more the chili, the hot seasonings, the spicy. Alright, so because we're going to do chili, we're going to do the hotter seasonings. Again, I will remind you, if you want nacho meat, do not put in the tomato sauce. So these happen to be organic diced tomatoes. So those are going to go in. If you have your own, all the better. I also have my own tomato juice that I froze not this year actually, but last year. So I'm going to be putting that in because this is chili. And so it's going to be more soup-like or more chowdery-like, more stew-like, that kind of thing. This is actually tomato paste, which I had used some from in a previous recipe, so I'm going to just add this in. This also comes out of a can. You can make your own, of course, but this will thicken it. So that goes together. Now you can see it's getting more of a chili-like consistency. Next thing that I like to add, which I buy in bulk from Frontier, and I put it in my jars, this is cumin, C-U-M-I-N, cumin. And again, depending upon your batch and how spicy you like it. So I like mine really spicy. I've probably just put in about 1/3 to 1/2 of a cup there. You may not like yours so spicy. If you're not sure, try a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons and add and taste, add and taste. And after a while, you like me, I just go to my Oversoul and say, how much goes in, and I dump it. So that's the cumin. The other thing that I like is chili powder. And I buy, this one didn't make it into a jar, but Frontier organic chili powder. And basically it's got more cumin in it, oregano, coriander, garlic, a little bit of allspice, a little bit of cloves, and of course ground up chilies. So again, I like a lot. I like mine, it's very spicy. I'm going to add in probably 1/3 to 1/2 a cup of the chili powder. So that goes in the mix. So once you get your meat and your vegetables going, it goes pretty fast. So again, you can put that in your freezer at any point. And while it looks like a lot, it is so nice to have it, to be able to pull out of your freezer or take to people, have a friend in, feed your family. You know, it depends on what your needs are, so adjust. Okay, from that, I also, here's my red pepper flakes that I get from our organic farmer Cindy, and I put in a couple tablespoons. I like it spicy. And I have organic ground black pepper, and I've again seasoned heavily with that. So probably a good teaspoon, maybe a little bit more. My Fleur de Sel sea salt, which is very, very strong. So with this, I'm going to use a little less, maybe 1/2 teaspoon to 3/4 of a teaspoon. And then if other people want to add more salt, they can do that. And the last thing that I did not get out, but sometimes I add, is just hot sauce. If you have Tabasco, anything like that, that will work. So again, use what you have on hand or what you can find easily in your local supermarket. Don't go out and buy a bunch of things unless you think you're going to make a lot of it and use it again, because it's just going to sit in your cupboard, and we are learning about releasing this month, and you don't want that to happen. So I'm going to let this simmer for a little bit and check on my veggies. And those are coming. I want those to be nice and soft, and when they're soft, I'm just going to fold them in, or I'll mix one way or the other depending upon my bulk, what it winds up to be. I have made this without cauliflower. If I haven't had it, I've added in extra, as I said, other things, kohlrabi, cabbage, zucchini. It depends on what you have available, but it's really nice, and you really can't taste it once it's in there. So it will lighten up your dish. It will make it very palatable. It extends your meat, and it extends your nutritional factor. You've got a lot of veggies you're getting in people. Some people like to add celery. Some people like to add peppers, jalapenos, green peppers can go in. Depends upon what you like. That's the nice thing about cooking. Now while those are kind of finishing up, I want to show you my beans. Mine are the easy kind from a can. If you can do them yourself, of course, that's better. I have kidney beans. I have Great Northern beans, pinto beans, garbanzo beans. I meant to pull out black beans, and I forgot that, so that's another kind of bean I like. You can do the same bean. You can mix and match. Again, what you like. Quantity, what you like. So use your creative abilities to do make a dish that's easy for you, that's nutritious. Again, you can put some in your freezer. You can share with friends. It's up to you. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. Oversoul, God mind, let that process direct whatever you're doing. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and finish this up. And we are going to have a wonderful meal tonight, my family. It really is almost a complete meal. Maybe a little greens and that's it. If you've used something purple in there, maybe that's what you want to have to finish up with. If you have water that comes out of your vegetables, you may want to dump some of that. Cauliflower is pretty dry. My turnips have actually been in my freezer for a while, or not my freezer, I'm sorry, my refrigerator for a while, so they're a little bit drier. Onion doesn't have it too much, all things considered. Okay, I think that's good. So, the sauce is simmering. Let's see how my pot's going to hold everything, or if I'm going to need to reverse the pot. I'm going to try. It's easier for me in a smaller pot to handle. Okay, so that goes in. It's off. Okay, you can see how nice that blends in. And when you serve it, you can serve it with a little grated cheese on top. You can serve it with, again, a little onion, you know, and again, it's presentation, because what your eyes see, it begins to prepare the body to accept it. And that's why so many people have nutritional issues these days. It's one of the main things we see when we look at people. Because when you're upset, or if you were forced to eat food as a child that you don't particularly care for, your entire digestive system shuts down, it clamps up, and then you're trying to put this food in there that it just simply will not, cannot utilize, absorb, digest, whatever. Well, this is going to be thick, so I may wind up adding a little bit more tomato juice, or I may just let it simmer and see what I think as time rolls along today, because I will allow this to simmer. And I think I'm going to get away with this pot, so I'm going to go ahead and start putting some of my beans in. Garbanzo bean, that doesn't need to be there. And mix that in. Alright, so I'm getting it in the pot I want, but it will be a full pot. Such is my life. As you're learning on the releasing video, what everything represents. But as this cooks down a little bit, it will get a little juicier and a little thicker. You can always go in and add a little bit more. You can divide it into another pot if you need to. I know a lot of people like to be really precise in their cooking. I don't. I cook for the moment. I cook for the people. I cook for myself. I cook for what's going on in my life. And things change. You know, my recipe tomorrow is going to be a little bit different than the one I make today. That's why I'm telling you, if you can't find specific ingredients, don't use that as an excuse not to do it. Find a replacement, something that works for you, your area, where you're at, what you have available. This is a delicious winter meal. If you want to, you can even transfer this to a crock pot and let it sit all day if you like. Okay, but this will take care of us for a number of meals. All right. And as I said, if you want to do lasagna, you leave out the beans and you season it differently. If you want to do your taco meat, you leave out the tomatoes and the beans and you season it probably pretty close to what I've done today. Anyway, I want to thank you very much for joining me. I hope you are enjoying the releasing that we're doing, the December's Daily Discards. That is a lot of fun that if you're a Violet member or above, you're doing with me, I hope. We are all moving out a ton of stagnant energy. I know I am. I'm getting results, and I'm happy about that. So thank you so much for joining me again, and I will be with you in another edition before you know it of Cooking with Janet, expansions.com. Thank you.